Hello, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm filming a sketchbook tour. So the last time I did this was back in June and I did the first half of this sketchbook, and I actually filled this up by August, so because I was still doing my daily art challenge I was creating quite a lot. So this is very overdue, but I wanted to share it with you because I'm really proud of some of the pieces that I made in here. It has been a while since I looked through this, so we're going to discover some of these pieces again together. But we're starting on this spread which I created from some photos from a walk, so this is quite near my house. It's in the New Forest and I did stick to quite a limited colour palette here. You can see I like to swatch them up on the page, and that's mostly just for aesthetics rather than for me to look back on in the future. But these are definitely my favourite colours, and this was actually completely done with coloured pencils. I think this is mostly Caran d'Ache Luminance pencils, and it's very rare that I just use pencils, but I really love how this turned out. I like the stylisation of the fields and the little cows, and I'm just really pleased with the overall look of this spread. Then I did these two quick paintings. This is with a base of acrylic and then I think it's some gouache over the top. So this was before I had my exhibition in August, so I was prepping and trying to work out what views I was going to paint. So this was kind of like quick studies for those. These are areas around where I grew up because that's what I did my pieces for the exhibition based on. I really love the pink underpainting. I think it gives a really nice warmth to the pieces, and although these are really rough and ready and you can tell that I didn't spend long on them, I still think that they have a really nice feeling to them. This piece I filmed a paint with me for, so I will link that up in the cards. This is Croatia, so I did these views from Map Crunch, which you'll know I absolutely love using as a resource for when I don't know what to draw. This is quite pale for me, and it does feel like quite a different, looser style, but I really love how it turned out. I like the loose brush marks. There's not a huge amount of detail, which is why I think it doesn't feel quite like my style, but I still really love some of these marks, and I really like that I didn't do it in panels, so this reminds me to try something different and break out of the panels again and try and overlap some elements. Then I painted this spread full of chickens. These were really quick. I did the gouache first, and I don't sketch, I just put down some of the shapes with the paint, and then I go in afterwards with my Neocolours and my coloured pencils just to add in some textures like the feathers and define some of the features of the chickens like the beaks and the feet. There are definitely some chickens that didn't turn out great, but overall I think this is a really fun spread, and I really enjoy filling spreads with one subject in this way, so you'll see that again in this sketchbook. This was another spread I did in prep for my exhibition. So we went to Hythe, which has this lovely marina, and because I took so many photos and I didn't really know which ones I wanted to take bigger because my final exhibition paintings were about A2 size. So I just did lots of different thumbnails, and this actually really helped me to work out which ones would work. So these are all thumbnail paintings from photos that I took. And I do find when I go out for a walk or when I'm out, I do take a lot of photos, and most of the time I'll take one photo and then draw it bigger. But this was a really nice way to show the full amount that I took, and they didn't take very long. I was very loose and messy, and again I did my gouache layer first and then went in with some coloured pencils and Neocolours over the top, but I think it's really effective. Some more exhibition prep paintings. You can see how it's linked with this spread here, again with the pink base, which I knew I was doing, and I did this on a Patreon live stream to try and work out which ones I was going to do. So I took these ones and then painted a couple of the views bigger and with a bit more detail. Again, this is gouache and acrylic, and then Neocolours and coloured pencils over the top. This one I actually created plein air, so this was when I went to Winchester and we went up to St Catherine's Hill. I recorded a reel and a Patreon vlog on this day, and I'm really pleased with this. So if you did want to see a process of this one and the next one coming together, that's in a Patreon vlog. This is very messy for me. I often find, and I've talked about that, my style changes when I'm working plein air, but I do like how much colour there is here. Even though it's very messy, it does feel very playful. And then after I did this full view, I zoomed in on some areas and split it into panels. So I was still in the exact same spot, but because it is on top of a hill and you can see the whole city, I just stripped back a few little views. I was really drawn by this crane, so I added that in, and I really like the way that looks. I didn't have a sort of ruby red, which is what it was, so I just used this darker red. And then sort of moved my eye around the different areas and filled in these spreads as well. It's quite interesting to me because this one's like zoomed in on one area, then I zoomed out a little bit more, and then I zoomed out again. So this is basically the foreground of where I was sitting. This is further on, so I think like the crane was over here, then I did some of the fields, and then here I've gone closer and done some more of the foreground, so I've included the flowers and more of the details. I also really like how I've left some areas blank. I think that works really nicely. This one I have thrown everything at it, so we've got some acrylic ink here. This is actually some collage, so this was from some paint palette sheets where I tore up these hills, and then some brush pen and gouache and acrylic as well. So there's a lot of media here and it is quite messy, but I quite like that. I think it feels very energetic and it's very bold and bright. Another spread inspired by Winchester. These are taken from photos that I took on that day trip, was from the other spreads. And this was completely done with Neocolor. I haven't done a spread like this in a while and I really miss it. It definitely helps keep me really loose because they are quite thick-nibbed and I don't usually sharpen them, so it means that I have to let go of the perfectionism and being able to get a huge amount of detail and just sort of go a little bit more abstract with it. And I really like how it's a like one colour palette. You can tell it's the same place, and I've drawn in a lot of those same green tones, a little bit of pink and this sort of beigey colour, and then the pops of orange. I think this is quite a successful spread. And then this one was more map crunch views. Again, the same area, and I just sort of zoomed around. This is definitely my comfort zone in terms of panel spreads, but I really like how it turned out. I love the blues and the greens and this pop of pink. I really enjoy making buildings pink instead of whatever colour they normally are. And this is done with Neocolors, a mix of brush pens and then also some gouache for the sky. These were some tree studies done on Emma Carlisle's Patreon, so these were 10 minutes each, and I really love these. I really want to draw more trees, and this inspires me to do it more because I really love the stylization of these ones. Then this spread was created using photos from my brother's holiday, so he went to North Wales, and it just felt so ethereal and really magical with the lighting, so I wanted to try and replicate that in my sketchbook. This is one view and then this is another, so same place but different views. And I just really love the softness. I was really trying to get that misty feeling that was in the back here with the waterfall. And I think that they go really nicely together. You can kind of tell it's the same place. And the pops of pink I think really makes it feel quite magical. This was mostly done with gouache and then Neocolors on top. Some 5-minute map crunch studies, so this is a really easy way to spend 20 minutes in your sketchbook. I did a random map crunch generator one. It took me to Bruges, and again I did keep this quite limited, mostly because of the time limits, and this was done with Ecoline brush pen, Tombows and Neocolors, and then a navy blue Prismacolor pencil. These again are from some references from Emma Carlisle's Patreon video. I'm really pleased with this. This is mostly done with gouache and it's a lot thicker and more opaque than I usually use gouache now. I really love the lighting. I love this orange here in this tree, and you can kind of get a feeling of like summer with these, which I really like. I was quite minimal with the details on top compared to what I usually add, but I do like some of these really refined details in the front. Then we went to Santorini on holiday. I shared these in a Patreon video. I haven't shared this on Instagram. This wasn't my favourite, but one of the reasons I drew this view, which is from our terrace with our room there, was because I was really taken by the light. So this colour is like the shadows, and then I've left the white where the typical Greece sort of architecture was pure white, and I was just really wanted to capture that. And I don't think it was very successful. I used Neocolors, and because it was so hot there, they were quite smushy on the page compared to how they are normally. But it was just a nice study on light, I think. And then I did this one, which I absolutely hate, again from our terrace. This was using mostly Ecoline brush pens, and I think this would work better if I used gouache, but I don't tend to take paints when I'm travelling, and I'm just not pleased with this one at all. Then I did a panel spreads, which again, more my comfort zone, and I'm much happier with these. This is just coloured pencils, a little bit of brush pen, and then Neocolours, and this was done back at the hotel using the photos from that day. So different areas of Santorini and different elements that I really enjoyed of the island, and I think this is one of my favourite spreads from that trip. This is one that I did in Santorini in Oya. This was done plein air, so I sat under a tree where we were trying to take a little break from the sun and sat in the shade, and I drew the building in front of me. It's not a typical Santorini view, but I really like this tree, and I again wanted to try and capture the light on this building. This is done with brush pen, so the grey is the Ecoline, and then I think this beige is a Tombow, and then a Caran d'Ache Luminance for the details and the sky. This spread I did plein air again whilst I was sat at a cafe, and then this one was done when we came home. You'll know that this is a really special spread for me if you saw my Instagram post at the time, because Mitch and I got engaged on Scaras Rock. So this is a really special place for us, and I really wanted to draw it. But like I said, this one was done plein air whilst I was sat at a table, and again, just drawing different elements of the island. This one was in front of me, and then these two were done using photos as a reference. And then this one when we came home and I got my gouache back and I just really wanted to paint. And I've got two little figures here, a lot of details done with coloured pencils, so I don't think there's any Neocolour in here. But I really love the texture. Obviously it's just a big rock, so it's kind of hard to draw and paint it, but I'm really pleased with all the colours I added in there. This is the thing I kind of pictured when I went to Santorini, what I was going to draw, but I didn't really have time when I was out there to do something this detailed, and I also didn't have my gouache with me, so this is done in my usual style of a base of gouache and then coloured pencils for the details on top and some Neocolour here. I'm really pleased with this. I like the texture on the vegetation and the water, and although this looks really detailed, it actually didn't take a huge amount of time. I used some brush pen for some of the shading and obviously gouache for some of these buildings too, and it was kind of just using the brush marks to create these shadows and then adding on the windows, so it's actually quite simple. And then this one, which is a very limited colour palette, and again I'm really pleased with this one. This is how Santorini felt to me, and I didn't quite capture it until I came home, but I really like this. I like the panels, and obviously the blue and white is very reminiscent of Greece, and those colours were all over the island, as well as this really hot pink. I didn't take this hot pink with me in my art supplies that I did take when I was on holiday, so I really wanted to capture that when I came home, and I really like this spread. I think I've caught the light as well. This spread I didn't share anywhere. Again, I think this was a spread I did from a reference from Emma Carlisle's Patreon, and I was just playing around with colour, adding in like lots of different colours in the background rather than a flat one, and mostly done with Neocolours and brush pens. So here we've got a badger. Again, this is gouache and Neocolours mostly. I think this is the first time I drew a badger, and it's not perfect, I don't love it, but I really like the contrast of the black and white badger and then this colourful background. This was when I was in my pear pink with green phase, but I think it's a really nice warm spread and I do quite like it. Then some 20-minute fish. This was using my new reference book that I got for my birthday from Mitch, and I really enjoy doing these spreads. They're quite simple. I do have a paint with me for a fish spread, not this one, but I will link that up in the cards. This is just gouache for the base and then Neocolours on top. Another exercise from Emma Carlisle's Patreon. These were some 5-minute lighthouse warm-ups, so they are very messy. I actually think I prefer these to the spread where I took a bit longer. I've used gouache again and brush pen and Neocolours, so my usual trio, and I just really like the energy and lighting here. but I did also spend 15 minutes on these two, 15 minutes each on these two, and it feels a lot softer than these quicker ones. You can kind of see the energy, which is why I like timed pieces so much. But these are really nice. I think I prefer this one, but it does feel like it needs a bit more green down here. I really love the colours here with the ochre and the green, but I do like the clouds and the sky in this one. Then I got some acrylic ink for my birthday. So this view is from Google Maps in Cornwall, and I'm super pleased with this one. I actually made it a print in my shop, and I just love the opaqueness. It feels so different from my gouache pieces, and just looking at this makes me want to grab my acrylic inks out. I did use some white gouache for the sky because I couldn't mix a light blue, and added on some details on top of it with coloured pencils, which layers really nicely on the acrylic ink when it's not super thick. So I'm really happy with this one, and I definitely want to create more work like this. Then some more map crunch panels. This was South Estonia, so a new place I hadn't drawn before, which is why I enjoy map crunch so much. Loads and loads of colours on this one, so not a limited colour spread, but I really like how this turned out. I think you can see it's all one place and it all links together. And then some frogs. Again, this was referenced from a new book I got for my birthday. I think it's called The Natural History Book, A Visual Guide to Everything on Earth. So there's so many things in there, loads of animals, and I really love filling the spread like this. I used acrylic ink because, again, they were really vibrant and it just was perfect for these colourful frogs. So the acrylic ink was done first without any sketching, and then a few little details added on top. I used white gouache for some of these highlights, and then some near colours for the spots and stripes. This was done on the very first Patreon Zoom session I did with my lovely patrons. So we were studying frogs, and I didn't love how they turned out, but you can really see I was having fun and I really did enjoy using the different colours. But I worked in quite a few sketchbooks on that session, so I think this is the only frog from that in here. Then a thumbnail page, so I really enjoy taking different reference photos and putting them in one spread. So this was all done with brush pen and near colour and a bit of pencil. This was just when I searched nature on Pexels, so that's a copyright free site and it's a really broad term, so it came up with loads of different pictures and then I just drew what I saw. I think this one's my favourite. I think this would work really nicely as a bigger one. So again, a nice way to work on composition and see what ones you could then recreate. An abandoned pigeon. I never finished this one because I didn't think it was working out. But this page did, so I obviously started with this big pigeon and then wanted to do lots of little ones. This is very similar to the chicken spread, so gouache first and then coloured pencils on top. There's no near colour on this page, but I really wanted to highlight their lovely colourful necks. I'm not a fan of pigeons, but I do really like these, and I think a lot of them have really nice little characters that I've shown through here. And I'm pleased with this spread, so this is also on my shop as a print. This one I filmed for Patreon. This was a tutorial for how to sort of build a landscape, so where to start and how it comes together. This is like my usual style of the watery gouache, and then near colours and coloured pencils on top. I really enjoy adding the lines on the water like this. I think it really adds a lot of movement, but I also think there's a lot of warmth in this, which I like. Then another map crunch panel spread. This was when I tried soft pastels for the first time. So you can see I had a green, a blue, and then this sort of soft orange red colour. And I was just trying it out. You can see the texture's really different, so it does feel like a challenge for me to incorporate that in my style, but it was really fun to use and I really loved the views on this one. Obviously Wales is a beautiful place and I'm happy to have captured it in my sketchbook. Some more 20-minute fish. Like I said, I really enjoy these and I think this is probably my favourite fish spread that I've done. Again, gouache and then near colours and coloured pencils over the top. I like to keep these on a 20-minute timer just because it keeps me really loose. Some more boats, so these were referenced from various different copyright free images, but I really enjoyed these. Originally I imagine them in a bigger sketchbook, but I love working smaller and trying to get those details in there. This was done with some Neocolor coloured pencils and brush pens, so there's no gouache on this page or paint, it's just done with those materials, and I really enjoyed this, and it really makes me look at some of the details, whereas when I work on timers I have to ignore those, so it was a really nice way to sort of switch my brain the other way. And then this I'm really pleased with. This was done with gouache and coloured pencils. This again was a view I did from a random pin drop on Google Maps down in Cornwall, which is one of my favourite places to draw. I'd love to visit one day and take all my art stuff, but I'm happy with the little pink highlights. I think that works really nicely on the screen, and then I feel like there's a lot of movement in the water as well. And then finally, the last full spread are these magpies, again done similarly to the chickens and the pigeons. I filmed this one as well, I think it's part of a vlog, but I was really pleased with these, although it didn't really capture the iridescent feathers and the shine on the magpie, so I wasn't as pleased with these as the other ones. But a really simple spread, and it didn't take very long. And then this is the end of the sketchbook, where I've just swatched a few different brush pens and some eco lines. So this is where I go to if I'm wanting to see what colour the brush pen is, because a lot of the time the lids don't match. So this is just the ending page, and that's the end of this sketchbook. So it's really satisfying to see it all filled up, and I love seeing all the smudges and colours from the ends of the pages. I just think it's a really satisfying feeling when you fill up a sketchbook. And hopefully I will have another sketchbook filled up soon. I'm not quite halfway in my current one, but when I fill that one up as well, I will film another sketchbook tour for you. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing this one and it gives you some inspiration. This is my first video for 2023, so if you're new here, please do subscribe, and thank you for coming back and watching if you've been a long time subscriber. I'm really hoping to focus more on my videos this year, so if you have anything that you want to see or request, then please do pop them in the comments, and I will see you next Sunday with a new video. Happy New Year, and I'll speak to you all really soon. See you later!